directed to explore an additional two, adding height and density under AB 1763. A corollary to that is really calculating if any additional city resources were needed. I see that we have a lot to go through, so I'll just summarize the direction very briefly, but we, in November, talked about concurrently building the housing with the garage, setting the income target into the project so that it could serve households up to 80% of the area median income. We looked at waiving a portion of development review fees, including the park impact fee. We further got direction to eliminate the community room and change the siting of the Orchard Resource Center. We also will be looking at designing the project to 100% electric standard, which is something that's happening up and down the peninsula. And now we are here to really go through the amendments to the project under AB 1763 that would be permitted, and the question of resources. We've studied the proposed, we studied what AB 1763 would allow for, and have come up with a proposed adding of 61 additional units. We have that stacked against the original proposal just for comparison purposes. So it's an additional 61 units. The parking ratio remains, the number of stalls remains constant, so the parking ratio does decrease. In the building height increase of 2 stories. And in this case, we increase the amount of resident outdoor amenity space to allow for additional people that would be living on site. This is a very preliminary concept that was really developed in order to guide this study session. We would hope to have another community meeting where we could go through some different ideas here. But in general, what you're seeing here is a little bit of attention on building facade to break up the extra massing. We're exploring some design interventions that would include premium materials in key locations. That was at the direction of Councilmember Pappen. In addition to that, adding a 7th floor roof deck to provide for additional amenity space and some increased articulation on the facade. In terms of the concept overall, originally we had proposed that half of the homes would be for individuals and families at 60% in median and below, and half would be above. And so for that overall concept, there remains no change. There is still a 25% preference for public employees. The range of affordabilities, that's what got tightened up a little bit. So instead of going all the way to 120% of median, we're now looking at up to 80% of the area median income. That was what we brought to you in November. And then in terms of other sources that we wanted to disclose, our original proposal had 29% project-based vouchers. That's a precious resource that's administered by the County Housing Authority. And this updated proposal shows that at 36%. You may be wondering why we show project-based vouchers at all. They're tremendously valuable. They average about $260,000 per unit if upfront capital to build a project. And in this case, the county has a program that they administer on an episodic basis. We never really know when it's going to come out with an opportunity to apply, but one did come out in December, and with this direction to study adding additional units, we proposed more. We proposed 80 units in total, and that's because we wanted to try to find a way that the addition of units would, that the city would be able to see maximum feasibility for that, and that's by leveraging other sources. Just to say a little bit more about the dynamic of the additional 61 homes. In our original proposal, we had quite a few 2 and 3 bedrooms. So you'll see for 3 bedrooms, the original proposal was 26%, and we kept that constant. For 2 bedrooms, the original proposal was 21%. We moved it to 22%. This is because one of the really key, kind of at the heart of the concept that we originally proposed was that on public land, wouldn't it be great if we built something that the market wasn't already providing for? And the market's building a lot of studios and 1-bedrooms. Meanwhile, we see 2-bedrooms, 3-bedrooms, homes for families. Those are increasingly not being produced at all. Furthermore, we have our own market research because we have quite a few 3-bedrooms at Delaware Pacific and Peninsula Station. We know that the wait list for those homes is over 600 families. So we feel strongly that keeping those in the concept was important. So where you see the most motion percentage-wise is between 1-bedrooms and studios. Another slice at that shows where the affordability, the tenant mix is coming in. We are now looking at up to 80% of the area median income. And so you'll see half of the homes are still in that above 60% of median, but essentially what was 25% out of 120 becomes 25% at 70% of the area median income. So in a way, this is a slightly more nuanced at the in between 60 to 80. We're going to be able to serve folks in that kind of typically underserved part of the missing middle. That's the garage. Based on feedback from November, we did not increase the residential stalls. The number of public stalls was something that was articulated in the city's RFP. There's quite a lot of demand for those. Some of the reasons that we support keeping the residential stalls constant is that we're working on a variety of ways to manage this in other communities. So we would be looking and have since added the Way to Go program, which is a reduced bus pass program that the project would support so that every individual over the age of 5 would receive. That's something that we work in, it's a partnership with Samtrans for affordable housing developers. Strangely enough, that program was kind of dusted off the shelf for Peninsula Station in response to the previous city's work with Mid-Penn. So it's something we have worked on quite a bit with them. We also would want to implement a no-car preference, and we'll work with city staff to see if a portion of the homes we could manage the parking demand through that. We'd also want to continue to explore, and this is something that when we come back to you in June, if we get direction to explore today, can present a more robust plan as part of our entitlements. But we would look at targeting populations with traditionally lower car ownership. Some of that would be maybe seniors, maybe folks that are in partnership with the county. Certainly at our newly entitled project in Belmont, we're working with Housing Choices to reserve 8 homes for people in the intellectual and developmental disability community. So there are some folks with very low car ownership that we could explore, and that would be one way to manage a lower parking ratio overall. In some, when we looked at the numbers, the additional 61 homes, they do add cost. It's a 34% increase. When taking into consideration the city's already generous resources that are supporting this project, we still come up with a $3 million gap. So that's where the ask from that comes from, and I'd be happy to talk about that more. And with respect to the schedule, you'll see February 3rd, that's where we are today. We have not accepted the county project-based voucher award yet, precious as it is, because we really wanted to have this input first, talk it through with our city partners. However, when you do accept that, it really locks us into performing within an 18-month schedule. They want to put the resources out to a project that looks like it's moving forward so that they can really get them out on the street. That's a timeline that's a little bit aggressive. We're trying to work with those constraints, but also balance the need for community input. We'd like to redo our community meeting. We'd like to redo the council planning commission study session, and have the opportunities to refine the design and really give it its due. So we're trying to work with both of those constraints. So lastly, our 3 focusing questions are whether or not this council would like us to move forward with additional units, input on the residential parking ratio, if the decrease is acceptable, or if we should look at something different, and then lastly, would the council be willing to commit the additional $3 million?
Is that $3 million, does that take into consideration other county money that could come into the project? Would the city's contribution be less if the county comes up with more money?
That's certainly a possibility. It's always our intention to go out and try to leverage the county and get other state monies and bring them here. Our cities, especially when the city is in a position where the land is essentially donated, they're our most important partner. So that's really our work, to go out and try to bring that investment in. We've taken a pretty hard look at what we think we can get from our other sources, and there is still the possibility of $3 million. If we get further on down the road and we don't need it, we won't close on it. We'll work with the city to
Could that $3 million come from the parking funds and go towards this project?
It's a question for Kathy.
So currently we have an additional $1 million in the parking and loop fund, although we do have a second parking garage that we're hoping to fund as part of the Central Park Master Plan. We also have additional money in the housing fund. So the housing fund could take on the full $3 million, it could take on $2 million, and the parking fund could take on $1 million. We're kind of looking to see, as we get a little bit further along with the performer, where the costs are coming from, because they're both really important pots, and we want to use them appropriately.
Sorry for jumping in.
Okay, just a quick question. The public employees, is it that 50% of them you expect to be below 60% AMI or 60 to 80% AMI? What are your thoughts there?
We studied this in November.
Right.
And it was really about the motion between where jobs that used to be at 100% are now, because of changes in the overall region, are now at 80% and below. We do see, do you have more to say about the demand analysis?
Of those 56%, how much do you expect will be X or Y?
We're actually really hoping to leave that open. So instead of assigning, so originally when we looked at this project, we were going to assign the public employee preference units to the upper income ranges. It would be the city's preference, and we'll have to work with MidPen on this, to leave those open throughout the incomes that are available in this project, so that we can match the demand from city employees, from, again, not just the city, public employees, sorry, school district, county, with the interest in these units.
And that has no impact on your funding then? It's coming in one way. Okay, thank
Great,
you.
good questions. Any other questions before we go to public comment? Go
I just
ahead.
have one quick question. Could you say a few words about your past experience reducing car ownership and I'm just curious how does that program work where you target different populations who will most likely not be using those spaces?
Well, what I can say is that we'll be putting together a plan and sending it to your city attorney to review. And it is a plan that we're implementing in 2 other communities. It does pass fair housing. It's really predicated on reserving a portion of the units, not the whole project being preference for no car ownership, but a portion. And so that works with many other programs like the bus pass and other targeting that you're doing, whether it be the housing choices for a portion of the studios, and we kind of have to look at all of the different programs together. And then most importantly, it's the management. So we provide our own on-site management. So at the time that folks are becoming our tenants, it will be as part of their lease, they'll have to register their car, and there'll be a protocol for if you aren't assigned a parking stall, you'll need to provide some documentation if you do decide to get a car that you've purchased a spot somewhere else. And our residents, we have on-site management. They know our residents very, very well. It's easy to tell what's going on because we have eyes that are there. And that's, I think, really where a lot of the magic happens.
Thank you.
If you would like to speak during public comment, please turn in a slip right now to the city clerk. And I'm going to ask the clerk to start reading names. In order for everyone's public comment to be heard between now and the regular meeting, we're going to have to keep it to 1 minute. Please just tell us what you have to say. This is not a community meeting, it's a study session, and we have limited time. So with that, I'll ask the clerk to start reading names, and please tell us anything you want to tell us.
Do you need to speak in?
We have about 10 speakers now,
Right?
and it's 1 minute right there at the end of the L-shaped table is a microphone. I'm gonna ask you to please come up and speak into that, and when you hear my phone go off, that indicates your time is up. So the first speaker is Jordan Grimes. You can make your way to the microphone. Following him is Gino Caccio.
Before he starts, can you just remind people that what we're.
Good evening, council.
Hold on 1 second, is to make a recommendation, we're not necessarily voting yea or nay.
Right, this is, just to be clear to everybody, we're not approving a project tonight, we're giving direction on where our partner in this project should go. It's not a final approval, there will be many other opportunities to speak. With that, Jordan, please begin.
Good evening, council. I have little voice, so I'll keep my comments brief tonight. Just want to say that I'm completely supportive of the direction that MidPen and city staff have worked so diligently to propose. I think at this particular time, getting as many affordable units as possible is incredibly important. I do want to suggest to council and staff the idea of exploring not just free or reduced bus passes to residents, but free transit passes in general. I think that that community members should have the ability to access the best public transit in the region. And as a frequent Samtrans rider, unfortunately, Caltrain is considerably better right now, and I hope that exploring that would be a possibility. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Robert Whitehair, followed by Alex Menendez. If I call you and you're really wanting to speak for the next item, just tell me it's for the next item.
Good evening, members of the council and Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to be real brief. I sent you all a email over the weekend. I suppose you've all had a chance to read that. This is a very good project for a couple of reasons. One is because there's so much low-income housing. It's a dire need in the city. And secondly is the all-electric nature of it. There are a number of people, including myself, members of Sustainable San Mateo County and Fossil-Free Building Silicon Valley, are working not only in favor of it, but also to find ways to help builders and developers find the equipment that's not really off the shelf. This is all a new area for a lot of us, and we're working very diligently and very hard to make sure that this project becomes all electric and fulfills some of the housing needs, which are so dire in this community. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. And we got your email too. And we all read it, I promise.
Okay. Next speaker is Robert Melendez, followed by Dina.
Alex.
Alex, sorry.
Good evening, City Council. Alex Melendez representing the Housing Leadership Council of San Mateo County. We're extremely pleased to see an increased number of affordable homes for this proposal. It's a great potential to be able to provide, 61 affordable spaces for people who need them the most. My older sister recently just found an affordable unit finally to live in this great city. So when I think of what this project can provide by having 61 additional units, I think of somebody like my sister who is a single mother who just recently worked her way up from being homeless. So I just want to keep that in the back of your minds as you provide direction to the applicant on whether or not you'd like to provide more affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Dinah Pettit, followed by Adam Nugent.
My name is Diana Pettit. I live in North Central, and I went to the meeting Thursday night to back up my friends at Central. I'm very concerned because at the meeting in November, we talked about a corner park for children. Now, I was told on Thursday night that wasn't going to happen. They're considering that those kids will go to Central Park to use the facilities. My other concern is if there's a fire, there's no cutouts for the fire department. I know that they met with the fire department and they gave them suggestions. I just think 2 more additional floors, although we need the 61 housings, I understand that, it is just too high. And I know we already have the other building built, but I just feel that 2 more floors is too high. Another thing, again, seniors, where do they fit into this? Because even though we're talking about extending so that other people can live there, I don't think it's affordable for seniors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Adam?
Following Adam will be Jan Studley.
Hi, Adam Nugent, North Central, speaking for myself. I have talked to people that, are on both sides of this. There is concerns about privacy of surrounding neighbors, things like that. And so I asked the council to weigh the benefits and the costs of that. And I think that given just the difficulty of finding land for 100% affordable housing, we can probably work through a lot of the issues that some people may have and get these extra 61 units if we can work with the neighborhoods. Ultimately, we need to find places for these people, for people that are members of our society, members of San Mateo community. And if it's not here, it's going to need to be somewhere else. This today is the fastest, greatest place that we can do it. 7 stories is a dramatic difference between 5 stories, but it's not 12 stories. It's not 16 stories. I mean, we're talking 2 stories. So
Thank you, Adam.
Next speaker is Jan Stokely, followed by Lori Watanabe.
Good evening. I'm here to provide some information about the housing need of people with developmental disabilities here in the city of San Mateo. We've been talking to Mid-Penn about the possibility of including units for that population if the project is allowed to add 61 units. Here in San Mateo, there are several hundred adults with developmental disabilities who are living at home with aging parents. That's parents in their 60s and 70s and older. And the number one concern of those parents is to be part of a transition plan for their adult to live independently in the community with services. The services are provided by the Golden Gate Regional Center. Our difficulty is finding affordable housing. The area median income in San Mateo County is quite high, so without project-based vouchers, even units that are priced to be affordable to people with extremely low income, our folks can't income qualify for. So the opportunity to partner with Mid-Penn at this site, where there would be project-based vouchers for people with developmental disabilities, is really extraordinary, and I hope that you'll pursue it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Lori Watanabe, followed by Michael Weinrauer.
Welcome, Lori.
Lori Watanuki, board member of CNA. Good evening, Mayor Gothels and City Council members.
Please speak up a little, Lori.
We have some concerns.
Well, the microphone doesn't.
We have some concerns that we would like to share since this is a major project. The project lacks sufficient analysis to increase the height to 7 stories and density to 225 without an EIR. We're missing 2 reports, actually 3 reports we're missing. The traffic impact analysis is missing for 5 and 7 story options. We don't have a current traffic impact report or an accident report. We asked for this 18 months ago. Now, we have increased cut-through traffic and speeding traffic on all of our streets with the exception of 2 streets where we do have traffic calming. Nelson Nygaard Transportation can address this, so please do not maximize this project without a traffic and accident study. The parking analysis is lacking in both studies, and a company like Nelson Nygaard can do a major study. Is that it?
I'm going to ask staff to answer your questions when we're done. Was there anything else you wanted them to address? I'll give you.
The last thing is the multifamily design guidelines. The project does not follow the existing multifamily design guidelines, which protects and preserves the existing neighborhood. Now, Measure P does say you can go to 55 feet and you can go to
75.
50 units. And there is an exception for density bonus to go to 33 feet. We will acknowledge that. But we would like to see a 5-story residential and density closer to 50 units.
Thank you, Lori. I'll have staff answer your questions afterwards.
And we'll turn in our letter.
Perfect.
And we'll turn in all the photographs that we gave 18 months ago.
Thank you, Lori. I don't want to cut into Michael's time. Go ahead, Michael.
You haven't started yet, right? Don't start it. Don't start it.
Start at 10
It's
seconds.
basically a case study why we have Measure P and why so many people support it. As soon as the opportunity presents itself, we see everybody rushing to jam as much into that space as possible. I understand we have a housing crisis. You are not going to solve the housing crisis in a single project, and you are not going to solve it without addressing the core issue, which is rampant office construction. You need to stick to the project, please, as it was designed and sold to this community and our neighborhood. We need those units now. Stick to the missing middle. They don't have the financial support that the low end of the market gets, and they need housing desperately. It does the missing middle a disservice and contradicts what most of you sat up and really touted when you sold this to the community when you picked Mid-Penn to partner on that. and be straight with the community. I was concerned, and while I appreciate the amount of time that MidPen spent with our community, with our neighborhood at the last meeting, that I had to come out and say to our neighbors that they were gonna add 2 stories. They didn't even say that. They didn't say they weren't adding any more parking. They didn't say there was an $8 million shortfall in the financing. Be straight. If you think this is a good project, be straight and honest with people and take the hit on it. And if you're gonna do it, go back and redesign it, take the hit on the timeline and do it right. It's too important. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
And the last speaker I have is Nicole Fernandez.
Hi there. To address what Mr. Weinauer said, we are not going to solve the housing crisis in one project, but this is a hell of a start. So 7 floors is going to be an amazing project, and it's exactly the kind of thing that I want to see here in San Mateo as a homeowner, as someone who's here in the long run, as someone who wants to keep the diversity of our community. This project is exactly what I want to see as it is, as with the additional units, and I hope you will pursue that measure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have one more speaker slip, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Gustav Hornos.
welcome.
Good evening, members of the council. A few months ago, when I was at the meeting and the initial showing of the project, I was very supportive of it. I'm really happy that there are projects that address the lack of housing, but today everything looks different, and I want to express my concern and support all of the other speakers that see the difference with what happened in November and what is going on today. I happen to live 1 block from the project. I don't know how many people here lives close by, but suddenly so many extra feet, even I want construction in downtown San Mateo, suddenly I need to start thinking lack of privacy in my backyard, lack of light, and probably decreasing the value of the property. So also I want to support the lady that talks about to make sure that if the city will contribute so much to this project, it's really affordable for the people that need it the most. So we do good in good terms, right? So we need clarity, and I want to support the project, but I believe that the first version, I like it much more.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring it back to the council, and first I'm going to direct Steph, were there any specific questions that you wanted to address at this time?
So it was mentioned about the CEQA analysis and the traffic studies. Those are underway. They actually got put on pause while we're evaluating the 7-story building, so that if the council decides to move forward, we will come out with traffic studies that address the 7-story building. So
And we're not making a decision
we're not
tonight about.
making a decision tonight. We're just getting direction to pursue
So
that.
this project will not get approved until all those are done and the public has a chance to comment on them.
It's
So,
required.
so Kathy, was this project approved before now?
No.
No. So, and can you explain what happened between previous discussions with 5 stories and now?
So the state recently passed a law that allows for consideration of increased height and density within a half-mile transit. So this, we got direction from council to study whether or not that was something the council wanted to pursue at the site based on what the financial impact and possible design implications.
And that's if a building is all affordable, is that
100%
correct?
affordable only.
100% affordable. Thank you.
So I'm gonna bring it back to the council for, we're gonna give staff direction on 1, 2, and 3. Let's start with number 1. Does the council want the applicant to move forward with the new proposal with additional units?
I can start?
Okay,
Yeah. So with number 1, since I look at the timeline and I see that the public will have 2 opportunities to come to, it looks like a neighborhood meeting and a study session before it comes to the council. So there's further opportunity for us, for the public to weigh in with whatever their concerns are, which gives the applicant an opportunity to work with those suggestions that you offer. And because I see that council will not even be looking at it until I think July, I think there's plenty of time for us to just look at and think about and decide whether this is the right course to take.
can I take
Modify-
that as a yes, Rick?
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
That's a yes.
Okay.
I'm a yes on all 3. Let me start there, okay? Number 2, no. No, do not change the parking requirements.
Okay,
Okay, and number 3, yes, we should commit $3 million.
okay, that'll
See, now it's
probably
done.
save some time. I'm gonna stick with number 1 for a second. Do you wanna go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm a yes on number 1, and let me just quickly explain why. I really see this as a once-in-a-decade opportunity that I don't even know if we'll be able to make this type of decision again at any time while I'm on council, certainly. And I hear from neighborhood residents time and time again, you know, we're building all this housing, but it's not affordable. We don't have enough affordable housing. This is a unique situation where in order to get these extra 61 units, we would have to approve anywhere from like 400 to 600 market rate units just to get these additional 61. To me, it seems like it's a no-brainer to at least study it to see to see if we can flush out and address a lot of the concerns that the neighborhood brought up at this meeting, so.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes also.
Land is so rare that, I hear they're not making it anymore. So,
we can make some.
exploration is indeed intriguing to me, so that's where I am. I would like to explore it.
Okay, on to number 2. Rick started us off with number 2.
Yes.
Rick is a no.
No, I don't want to modify
You're
the
a no.
parking ratio.
I understand
Yeah.
what you mean.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean. And we're not changing the number, of stalls. It's still,
Oh, and my reason is because I saw one line in the presentation about shared parking. And I still think there's an opportunity between the day users and the night users for shared parking there. Okay, so.
we're not changing the number of stalls in the parking garage, just the allocation between the housing and the public.
So I'm a no on number 2, but I do want to see a lot more information about what we're going to do to make sure that we're not causing a huge parking issue.
And
around.
successes at other places
Exactly.
too. So I am also a no on number 2.
Can we clarify, so we're still netting 300 additional public parking
Yes.
spots, right?
So, it's actually gonna be 297 just due to some design changes in the garage, due to turning radii and all sorts of fun details, but pretty much 300.
Okay. And so the question is, are we going from 1 to 1 to 1 to 0.7
For the residential, yeah.
for the residential? I'm open to that because I think that it makes sense from the perspective of the senior community that we're looking to address housing needs for, and also the developmentally disabled community, which are both have very low car ownership. And then with the structure of the bedrooms and the unit types, to me it is justified to lower the ratio because we're doing it in a way that is strategic and matching community need, community usage to the numbers. And so to me that makes sense. And we need parking downtown, and we definitely need employee parking downtown.
I guess I don't understand the question. It is to modify residential parking ratio, meaning that you would be required to do less parking places per
So we're
unit.
keep the residential parking at 164 spaces, even though there's now 225 units. So the ratio goes down, but it's the same number of residential spaces. The ratio of parking spaces per unit.
So when we say modifying it, we're not talking about requiring you to do more. We're saying leave it as is, but build the other 2. So I think what you want is, I don't think you want to say yes then. I think you want to say no. It's a weirdly worded question.
Wait.
I think we get the intent by saying no, you're saying keep the parking at 164 is what we're interpreting.
Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm saying. Sorry.
It's a very,
That's what I thought.
believe me,
We may have worded
4
that
people
backwards.
answered it and I was
Plus,
so
there's
confused.
buses and
Me.
trains, okay? So.
But I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're all on the same page then.
Okay.
Last question, Rick, you said yes to the 3 million?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That answers all your questions, yes? Fantastic, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody who came out and had public comment on this. I want to remind everybody, this is just the beginning, it's not the end. Lots more opportunities for public comment and help us make this design even better. Thank you all for bringing your comments. Now, we have another item, so stick around if you're here to talk about the Peninsula Interchange. And again, I want to hear everyone's public comments, so we're going to go as quickly as we can so we can get everyone's input. Thank you, everyone. Brad, do you have a presentation, or are you handing this off to Matt, or?
Bethany, if she's around, if she hasn't left the building.
Paging Bethany. Jan, thank you for coming.
Stokely? Yeah, it is.
See, you're gonna have to stand for that long.
Chief Barberini, we can put seats over here if you need them.
So I'll just tee this up while Bethany's getting the PowerPoint presentation done. I'm Brad Underwood. I'm the Public Works Director and Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for having us here tonight. We're going to update you on the Peninsula Interchange project. It's been at least a couple of years probably since we've been before the council. The main thing we've been working on in that course of time is traffic analysis. So we're in the environmental stage of the project right now, and we decided, since our neighbors to the north, playing Burlingame, have some significant traffic concerns about this project in their area, we wanted to take a more complete look at the project. So we're going to go through some of that analysis with you tonight and have a few questions about direction going forward. So Bethany Lopez, Senior Engineer at our department, will be giving the presentation.
Patrice? Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
for
Bethany.
having me. We're going to be going over, this is the outline of the presentation that we're going to have tonight. We're going to talk about what the project is, the description of it, go over some of the traffic analysis and findings, talk about some of the concepts that were proposed with the previous phase and the right-of-way implications with that, discuss an updated cost summary, and then potential next steps. So the project proposes to close the Poplar Avenue intersection and interchange at the southbound ramps and relocate them to the US 101, at the Peninsula Avenue interchange. So in the previous study, the project study report identified safety issues at the Poplar Avenue intersection and interchange as the purpose and the need for the interchange relocation. So the non-standard ramps you can see on the sort of the top side of that slide are very short, and they don't meet the current Caltrans design standards. Some of that relates to some of the other issues that are occurring at that location, including high vehicle speeds and the queuing and congestion that's seen there. So this particular image is of the previous configuration, and this was the configuration that prompted moving forward with this project originally. In the interim, back in 2012, City Council approved the Poplar Amplet safety improvement. You can kind of make it out there. There's a median now at the Poplar Amplet interchange and intersection. So what that did is it eliminated one of the movements going from southbound Amplet onto the freeway, and it addressed in the short term some of the safety issues that were occurring there. At that same meeting, council instructed staff to continue moving forward with the Peninsula Interchange project as a long-term solution to this concern. So should the Peninsula Interchange be constructed, it would create a third full access ramp. So the full access ramp meaning that both northbound and southbound movements are available onto the freeway from that location. So currently, the Poplar Interchange only allows for the southbound movement, so moving it up to Peninsula would allow for both northbound and southbound movements onto the freeway. And you can see this is similar to the Broadway and 3rd Avenue interchanges. So back in 2000, or in the early 2000s, these were the original study locations that were proposed. The rectangles are segment analyses, so roadway segments, and the circles are intersection analyses. The blue intersections were the study intersections that the city proposed, and the orange intersections were those that Caltrans requested, so there were a couple of additional there. Around around the same time, Burlingame staff provided input and requested that additional intersections be studied to address some of their concerns. So the green intersections are those that were expanded at that time. And then following community meetings and city council direction in 2016 and 2017, the yellow locations were added. And all of this, again, was in an effort to address the traffic concerns brought up by staff and by council at the time. So this presents the level of service analysis. These are the preliminary analysis related to the project. And what we're showing right here is the no-build scenario. So this is if the project did not go through, and this is a 2045 year projection for the morning peak hour. We did want to make note that we scaled the LOS F sizes. Let me back up for one moment. So LOS A through F correlates to delay, average delay per intersection, with LOS A being the best scenario, free-flowing traffic, and LOS F being the worst scenario, being highly congested. LOS F ranges from 80 seconds and beyond. So everything below that ranges from 0 to 10 seconds, 10 to, and so on. So because LOSF has such a large range, we decided to scale the LOSF delays to indicate sort of what their delay is respective to itself. We also wanted to make note that the other LOS values A through E were scaled to indicate smaller sizes, but if we scaled them on the same amount as LOSF, they wouldn't really be visible. So just to indicate how much less significant those LOS values would be.
Really scary scenarios.
Yes.
Especially, it looks like the east side of San Mateo High School, where all the students go to school every morning, is one of the worst areas where you have just constant cars.
Exactly. So moving on to look at the build scenario, this indicates what that LOS level of service analysis looks like with the project build at Peninsula. So we do see some changes. I guess just to, I'm going to do this a couple times to indicate where we see some degradation of intersections. So you'll notice at 3rd and 4th Avenue, really on the bottom right of the slide, you'll see some at 4th Avenue and Humboldt increase. You'll also see the Monte Diablo and Humboldt intersection increase. So this is before and this is after. And there's a slight increase at Peninsula and El Camino. So doing that one more time. Oh, hold on, sorry. Okay, that's AM, okay. So looking at these two, that's the comparison there. Moving on to the PM peak hour, this is, again, with the no-build scenario, if the Peninsula project was not built. And this is if the project was built. You can see there's a pretty major change in the levels of service, especially around the schools, as you mentioned. There are still some impacts, project-related impacts, again at 3rd and 4th Avenues, again at Monte Diablo and Humboldt, and also at a slight increase at El Camino and Peninsula. Are there any questions about this before I move on?
I have a question. What does that mean if the red circles equates to how many minutes?
So it relates to the average delay in seconds, actually. So we don't
the
have.
red circle would mean how much time?
Big red circle, long wait. Big red circle, long wait. And the question was, what do the red circles mean? The bigger the red circle, the longer the wait. The smaller the circle, and the yellow and green are much less wait.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on.
But how many seconds?
So the biggest red is at least 80 and beyond. And the smallest green is fewer than 10 seconds. Is that right? And everything else is in between.
Could I add something, Mayor? Just so you know, we actually published a report ahead of time that actually describes all of that.
All right. So we also took a look at a couple other metrics. So level of service is one that's required by us by Caltrans, and this is data that we will be submitting to them for approval. We looked at a couple other metrics, including travel time, and so we chose an arbitrary point, one at Peninsula, Delaware, and Dwight as the destination coming from southbound 101. And with the delay and the queuing associated with and without the project proposes to save approximately 2 and 3 minutes in the 2025 opening year scenario, and about 5 and almost 12 minutes in the 2045 design year scenarios. And then
That's getting off the freeway southbound and making that distance.
If I just, and this incorporates, because there's new development over where the drive-in used to be and all that, you're factoring in
Yes.
how slow things will be because of those developments?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So this is looking at coming from that location and going southbound and entering onto the freeway southbound. So again, we're looking at about 9 to 10 minutes in the morning in the opening year, about 4 minutes in that opening year in the afternoon scenario, and then almost 18 and about 16 minutes in the design year scenarios.
So that's travel time savings.
Travel time savings, exactly. So this all correlates to queuing at each one of these intersections. And so we have 4 different scenarios, and we looked specifically at the PM peak hour to take a look at what these queue lengths would look like. And the red and the length of the red really correlates to what that distance of queuing would look like. And this is, again, without the project, these are what the projected queue lengths are anticipated to look like. And then with the project, the blue indicates what the projected queue lengths would be. You will note it's a little bit difficult to see, but there's a blue line up by Peninsula and where the off-ramp would be, and there's a segment there that indicates the off-ramp itself. So it's not a city street, it's the off-ramp queuing that's on there, so.
A metering light or something like that?
It's just,
Off-ramp coming onto the Peninsula Avenue, so just be queuing back onto the freeway.
Got it.
But if you look at the previous slide, it's not on there because it's not built, but there's queuing on the opposite side of the freeway in North Shoreview area, so that's great queuing.
all right. This is the extent of the traffic analysis discussion. Is there anything before I move on?
Nope.
Okay. So we wanted to go over the design concepts that were proposed in the project study report. There's 2 design concepts, and so it's essentially 3 alternatives. This is the first one, the second one I'll show in a minute, and then the third is a no-build concept. So this is a tight diamond interchange is what it's named, and you'll notice just the close spacing between the off-ramp, the proposed off-ramp and on-ramp intersection to the Bayshore and Peninsula intersection. And I believe the primary reason for this configuration to be considered was to limit the right-of-way needs associated with the project. The second design alternative is the spread diamond interchange, and what this does is it moves that intersection away from the Bayshore Peninsula intersection a little bit, and it creates some additional queue space and storage for vehicles, and in turn, it improves intersection operations, usually when you have your intersections spaced a little bit further apart.
Bethany, could you show us that difference once again?
Do you want me to zoom out?
No, that's good.
Okay. So you'll notice this kind of hugs the freeway on the north side of it, and this one here, it hugs the southerly property lines. So moving on from here, these are the initial right-of-way impacts associated with each one of the design concepts. You'll notice that on the north side, it goes, the design impacts extend to Idaho and Amplet intersection. And some of these are not necessarily full takes, full property takes. Some of them are some frontage, well, I actually, I apologize, that's not correct for this particular scenario. And on the south side, it's a property, just a frontage take, along the multifamily housing on the south side of the bridge. So, moving on to the design concept number 2, you'll notice that the right-of-way impacts extend to the Humboldt and Amplet and Rollins intersection, and also include the multifamily property south of the bridge.
What does the yellow mean in that?
The yellow is the right-of-way impact, the affected parcels where right-of-way would be needed for the project.
The eminent domain.
No, it's not eminent domain.
Not for the last
There's
15
a
years.
process that Caltrans requires us to go through that involves the property owners as well, so there's an appraisal.
When do we get informed about all that?
We've been waiting 15 years.
As we move further into the process, if we decide to go forward with the project, that'll be the time that we contact.
We're talking a year, we're talking 3 years?
We can have the environmental phase done probably, I think we're trying to target for the end of this year, so yes, it would be sometime within the next
So the
year to 18
yellow is
months.
what's being affected by,
I'm gonna ask everybody who has public comment or question or anything like that to submit a slip to the clerk, and I wanna make sure that everybody has equal time to speak and have their questions heard. I believe, you have more slides, right?
Just a handful more. So moving through, we wanted to just provide an updated cost estimate. Under the design concept number 1, which is the Tight Diamond interchange, the total was projected to be $106 million. Under design concept 2, $120 million. And you'll notice a large portion of that is the utility and right-of-way costs associated with the project. We also wanted to note that at construction, which we're anticipating is around 2025, the cost for construction is anticipated to go up. So that's the other numbers that we show here, is in today's dollars, it would be an additional $5 million at 2025.
Of the utilities, grouping utilities and right of.
Can I ask you to ask your question during public comment?
I don't wanna waste my time, I have 1 minute on the third one, if you don't mind. The 57 and 71, what percentage is right of way?
I don't have that breakdown right now, but a large portion of that is the right-of-way.
Said 12 million on your report.
I don't have that number on me right now. So the potential next steps for the project are to submit the traffic operations analysis to Caltrans for approval. We need to meet with the community, discuss the traffic results, continue the remaining portions of the PAED, which we're currently in, that's the phase we're currently in. And then long-term, as mentioned, we're looking for funding. We would be starting the search for funding for the design and the right-of-way for it, potentially starting that design and right-of-way acquisition in 2023, and then potentially start construction in 2025. So the feedback that we're looking for tonight from council is, does council recommend moving forward with the project considering the additional funding needed for the PAED, the right-of-way needs, and the total project cost?
Okay, are there any questions from the council at this point? Can I ask the clerk how many comments we have?
I have a question.
6 speaker slips right now.
We have 6 speaker slips. We have very limited time before the council meeting starts. I'm gonna ask for Councilwoman Lee's comment.
I have a question. So when you were giving the traffic analysis, is there a significant differential between the before and after build between the tight diamond and the spread diamond?
So right now, the traffic analysis is primarily looking at the spread diamond interchange as the preferred alternative. However, that the actual preferred alternative won't be determined until the finalization of the PAED. But for now, for study purposes, we are looking at the spread diamond interchange. So concept number 2.
Is it fair to say the spread diamond has the most impact on traffic? The most significant impact on the wait times along Peninsula and other places?
It would reduce wait times compared to the tight diamond.
Got it.
Yeah.
So that, with that having been said, I'm gonna turn it over to, the public comment period. I'm gonna ask the clerk to start calling names, just like the last session, we're gonna line up 1 minute for each speaker so that we can get everyone's comments heard. I think there are a lot of different people who have different interests in this, and I wanna make sure everyone has their comments heard. So, starting with the first speaker.
Your first speaker is Anthony Caccia, followed by Gino Caccia. So if you could go to the microphone.
And just before you start, PAED is?
Project approval and environmental document. I apologize, it determines the preferred design alternative and also provides our environmental clearance for it.
We all knew that, we didn't wanna tell Paula.
Hey, I was brave enough to ask.
Good for you.
Please.
My name is Gino Caccia. I have a business on Amphilet. I have 2 buildings there and also operated a plumbing company there. Most of the people here are business owners or building owners of those properties. I think what you're going to see is some passion because we've been kept in the dark. And true freedom in the United States is knowing what your path is ahead of you, and we don't have that. We have a dark cloud over our properties. And what's happening is there's a map, right? The map looks like there's supposed to be an overpass when you look at San Mateo. The little finger goes up into Burlingame, and it looks like an off-ramp, right? I get it. Path of progress, you guys want to build something there, let's do it. What I know to be true is when I ask questions to the Transportation Authority, when I talk to people in Burlingame, is that you guys are not fully committed to getting this project done. You're putting your big toe in the water and not getting the funding you need and the decision-making with Burlingame to get on board. Somebody needs to go toe-to-toe with them and say, hey, we're gonna do this. You got your overpass, we want ours. Fight for it, because we don't wanna be in limbo anymore. You know what I'm saying? We have business decisions to make, and right now, we have property that's encumbered because there's lack of decision-making happening here.
Well said.
The faces I'm looking at here, only one is familiar, Rick Bonilla, right? We've had this conversation before, and he was on the planning commission at the time, right?
Yes.
And you guys are
Public
new to
Works,
this.
actually,
Public
like 10
Works,
years
right?
ago. Yeah.
Talking about this for a long time,
We
so I
weren't
want.
even born then.
Let's, right? I agree. So let's, we want more information, we want to be able to have more chance to talk. I know this is a tight time, but this has to be more open and talked about. It's been almost 2 years since we had a chance to talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Anthony Caccia, followed by Lynn Leonard.
As mentioned, I'm Anthony Caccia. I'm Gino's brother, obviously. I have all the same property and business interests that he has. In addition to what he's mentioned, the notification of all of us on the frontage road there has been just poor, right? For several years, we get 1 week's notice, we get 2 days' notice, we get flyers in a mailbox instead of phone calls or emails. It's just knowing what direction we're headed and having the ability to come here and speak to this stuff in the last minute makes it tough, and in some cases, it almost feels like we're notified last minute so that there's less of us to be here to speak, right? So, again, the direction that we're looking for just some direction to see where we're going, and we're looking to be kept as much in the loop as possible of what that direction is.
Thank you so much.
Lynn
Lenarden. I'm Lynn Lenarden. I own Alert Door Service. We've owned this building for about 25 years. It's about 10 blocks from our home. We are also going to be impacted somewhat with the traffic when it gets changed. I just want to say I was 45 when we started this process. I'm turning 61. And it's getting closer to the time my husband and I would like to retire, but we're still up in the air. So we're going to have to find a new property for our business when we're getting ready to retire. We can't sell our business because with the cloud over our head, you've kept our property values artificially low. And it's very upsetting to not know where we're going to go, where my son's going to take over our business. And for the community who has been counting on all of our businesses all these years. And I just feel it's not you guys because you're new here. I know Rick Bonilla was on that council when you said, you have to be careful because this will rear its ugly head when you guys turned down the project all those years ago. I'll never forget what you said. It just seems to me like you've kept us in the dark, and I don't feel like we have been treated honestly and fairly by the city of San Mateo. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Tom Carney, followed by Gustavo Munoz.
Hi, I'm Tom Carney from Carney Refrigeration. Excuse me. It looks to me like what we're looking at in reality is in 25 years, somebody's going to have to be parked moving slowly through traffic for 11 minutes. In 25 years, do we really care about 11 minutes? Our cars are going to be completely different by then. they'd probably be much smaller maybe, more people taking public transit. I know we've done studies and we've got fancy pictures and all that good stuff, but the reality is, you're putting a whole bunch of people out of their business, including mine.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
The next speaker is Gustavo Onos, followed by Austin Rangers.
Gustavo, next.
Okay, Austin Rangers, followed by Joanne Bennett.
Hello, everyone. Oh, is this on? Okay.
You speak into it.
Okay. I'm Austin Reinders, and I own Simonian Rug Cleaners on North Amplet. And I bought the business about 12 years ago, knowing that this was going on, and the business owner at that time told me that I might not have a place, and I just went for it. And thankfully, it still hasn't been decided. But basically, I think that in the next 20 years, we should be looking at a lot more than just these few minutes that we'll be saving in commutes. That there's a much bigger problem. I mean, looking at all this building and whatnot that's going on, we're going to need to really put all this money more in towards public transportation and how we can get people out of traffic in the first place instead of just moving it from one place to another. And of course, I don't want my business to go either. But I think that it's not really quite the solution that's going to fix this problem. So.
Thank you, sir.
And Joanne Bennett.
Hi. The last time I spoke about this Peninsula Overpass project, I was speaking, John Lee was the mayor. So I've been involved in trying to follow up with this since 2006. I concur with all the business owners. It's been very quiet for a long time. I grew up in this neighborhood. I live 6 houses away from the corner of Peninsula and Idaho, and my family home is on the other side of Peninsula, right by Nini's. So, you know, I'm really concerned if the businesses are all gone. I'm concerned. Parking is atrocious. I mean, it's, you know, and it's, whatever you do, don't eliminate any parking. So like everyone else said before me, I would just like to be kept in the loop more so we could all sit down, discuss, you know, how is this gonna work? You know, how much is it gonna cost? The businesses that are gonna lose, you know, their livelihood, and also I'm concerned about the residents that are still standing. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to speak on this? Any other public comment?
Yes.
Come on in, sure. Would you do me a favor and submit a speaker slip after?
Yes.
Thank you.
Again, I'm Diana Pettit. I originally got involved in this because Brad sent me a request, would I like to be involved with the traffic action project? And so I've been working with Bethany from day one, okay? Because we were to submit the 13 neighborhoods and our issues. North Central has not been moved once. We've gotten no updates. The Peninsula exit that they changed is not right. Our students from going to high school from 3rd Avenue over to Peninsula are still on San Ynez and Tilton with a 4-way stop. This is our children's future. And I'm on 3rd and South Fremont. Those little dots you saw on the bottom right-hand side, guess what? They're gonna build another 40 units condominium with a 3-story townhouse unit right there on 3rd, between 3rd and 2nd South Fremont. All I wanna say is, it's sad you're putting people out of work. My neighbors in the north end by Peninsula Avenue, all those older people, their kids are living there. 3 generations. We still don't have the problems with San Mateo High School straightened out. Please don't do this project.
Thank you so much, and I'll bring it back to the council, close the public comment period. One more, okay, fine. Come on in.
Yeah,
I'm not involved in the tear down. I own Nini's, and I've been there since 1968. So I just want to know, is this gonna happen, or is it still up in the air?
So I'm gonna answer your question after you're done with public comment.
Well, I'd like to know whether it's happening. We're not sure whether it's happening or not. You're just still in the preliminary stages of this.
So, I'll try to answer it in this way. We were in the planning phase of the grade separations at 25th, 28th, and 31st for 20 years.
I know,
And
I've
when
been
we-
here all that
and
time,
when-
I'm
and when we
75.
finally got the funding, we went forward on that project, and what you're seeing now is that those projects are almost done. That's how long some of these projects take in order to bring San Mateo's money back to San Mateo, because grade separations are a huge safety concern.
So-
This is also a huge safety concern, so
So did you get the funding?
I broke my own rule. The whole purpose of this meeting is to say, we as a council are dedicating ourselves to getting that funding, or we wanna bail and we don't wanna do this anymore.
Okay, so,
That's why we're here.
yeah, so in order, what I'm concerned about, okay, me as a business owner, I own that little business there, since 1968.
We all love Nini's, we
So
love coming to
I
Nini's.
probably fed everybody in here. And, you know, so thank you so much for that. But I'm just saying that, okay, so if this comes over and all my customers, all these guys, all the people, so Nini's is now isolated on this thing, and they're they've put everybody out of business, all the people I love that I serve, then I better get funding ahead of time. I better get some of that funding too, because you're gonna shut me down, you're gonna shut everybody, all of us down. So this is gonna shut everybody down. And it's gonna also, because here I am, I'm gone, you know, everybody's gone. So, I mean, it's big.
I wanna keep coming, but I appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm now gonna close the public comment period. I completely understand, and all of us have been listening, we hear you, we know how long you've been in this, long enough that it was before any of us were on the city council. And being in that limbo is part of how hard this has been. If we could say we're gonna get all of the funding tomorrow, I think it would be a much easier conversation for all of us. But you understand how hard it is for us to go get that money. And I hope that I wasn't underselling this. This is a safety issue. This is about making sure that cars have a safe way to get on and off of the freeway and the shortest distance possible, so that cars, when they get off of 101, are not going through neighborhoods, because that's part of the danger is those kids who are playing on Humboldt and Delaware and all these other streets that get more traffic because of this interchange. That's what we would like to see, and we've seen it with other places with grade separations. When we're able to increase safety, we see fewer bad things happen. And it seems incredibly expensive, and it comes at a cost. I know there's a very direct cost to some of the people in this room, but what is the greater good? If there was no good to this project, we wouldn't do it. But that's why we do these studies, is to see what is the benefit of the project, what, in terms of how safe will the traffic be, how many people will stand to benefit if we can get something like this done? How many fewer accidents might there be? How many fewer people trying to get on the freeway at Poplar might be caused? So with that, I'm bringing it back to the council. We have 9-ish minutes before our council meeting. Does anybody have final comments that they would like to make? Rick?
So I'd like to say, in reference to how long it's taken, I remember I was appointed to the Public Works Commission in 2006, and I think we started discussing it shortly after, about the time Joe got there, not long after me. The difficulty has been that this affects, I mean, you're all here, right? This is the family of people that this affects. On the other hand, we have to think about the larger community, that the lack of those ramps and the maintaining of the Poplar ramps also affects. And that's a negative effect. It's a negative impact. It's been very dangerous. There have been a lot of accidents there. It causes safety impacts all throughout the neighborhoods, heading further into San Mateo, up into Burlingame. So it's a very difficult thing to decide. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but we have to err on the side of safety. More people ride bikes, more people are walking. And that's really a priority because we do need to do everything we can to cut greenhouse gas emissions. We're all looking for ways to clean up our air. It's a major thing. Sea level rise is going to impact us here in a huge way in not that many years. In a few decades, we're going to see serious impacts. We have to make changes. So that said, this is not easy, okay? And I know, Mr. Nini, you'd like to say something. I'll leave that up to the mayor. But so those are my comments. And frankly, I think we need to go forward with studying it and seeing how feasible it is, because I still don't think we have all those I's dotted and T's crossed.
Okay?
Okay. For me, it's a lot less about traffic and more about public safety. When we have a Vision Zero, or when we have somebody get hit by a car, I used to live right around this intersection on Poplar, and that is going to be where I think we could really make the serious mistake here. So I'm in favor of moving forward with the study. However, I would like to request that what was really concerning was the lack of communication that I'm hearing, whether it happened or not, or whatever ended up happening. I think our city staff really needs to step up the efforts. I know they're doing a lot now, but even do more. If they have to call each business and make sure that they feel like they're in the loop of what's going on, because that's the least we owe them. I mean, we need to make sure that these stakeholders have as much information as we possibly have.
Mr. Mayor, just one.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, so we recognize the outreach needs to be stepped up, but this was really our first step in the process, is really does the council still want us to move forward with this? So going forward, and we didn't really have any information to share until now either, so without that, there was really no reason to go before the public, but now if the council directs us tonight to go forward, there'll be more.
Can't say you've been working diligently on it and saying the same your report at the same time. That's not possible.
Public comment is over. Public comment is over. I'm gonna talk to people after the meeting if we have any time between now and the meeting.
Go ahead.
Oh, I would just wanted to reiterate, for me, it's life, liberty, property. We've seen high schoolers come before us that lived, thankfully, to tell us the story of their incident where they were involved in car crashes. I walk my kids to school. We witnessed a child, 6 years old, get struck by a car. This is an incredibly dangerous situation that's occurring every day in our community that does need to change and does need to be fixed. Based on this presentation, my inclination is to try to move forward in a way that minimizes impact to businesses. If there is an opportunity to do that through the tight diamond, I don't feel like I have enough information based on what we are shown to make a call either way. I don't really understand what the property recovery process looks like, what the process going forward will look like. So, this is such a tough thing to say. We go in this direction without all that information. For me, I feel like we as a council are missing adequate information in terms of if the decision point is to study a way to make this better and safer, absolutely we need to do that. But I don't feel like I have enough information to address the community and understand what the implications are and the impacts to their businesses and property.
Clearly public projects take a long time to get done. It takes a long time to get the money in the door. There's no disputing that. No excuse for not having transparency. We can make that happen, especially with the advent of the internet and email. There's just no excuse. So I want to represent that. I think the one thing that we really have to take into account is the change in circumstances as it relates to the east side of the freeway. I'm old enough to remember the drive-in, and it didn't have the use that's going to have with this 800,000 square feet going in. And that really does change the dynamic here in San Mateo. So I think what you're hearing from the council members is we're concerned about the change that isn't coming. And we're concerned about pedestrian safety from that change, if I may speak on all of yours behalf, but I've listened to most of you. And so that's why you see that this is now coming to fruition, even though, as you said, it was talked about for many years and nothing really happened.
We just wanna know.
Fair
one
enough.
way or another.
Fair enough, but it's really coming down the pike now with those changes on the east side of the freeway.
That's
So
what we all
that's,
figured.
yeah, we're really concerned about it.
So Burlingame has pretty much done it to us.
I don't know
They
what.
approved,
The big project.
all 800,000 square feet.
So I think it's fair to say that all of us have significant concern about thousands and thousands more cars that are getting off at Poplar and then going over the peninsula overpass. So
Talk to Burlingame,
for that
they say
reason,
that they have shuttles and they're.
public comment period is over, but I'm happy to talk to you after the meeting. For that reason, I too think that we need to go forward with this for the safety reason. I don't know how quickly we're gonna get the money, but I do think we have to continue to communicate with all of the people affected, most especially all the people in this room right now. So I think you have direction from all of us to keep up the communication, but we all wanna see safer streets, we all wanna see this project move forward because it'll be better for the entire community. And we need to, we owe it to everybody in this room to keep them informed.
So, through the mayor, one last thing. I'd like to see if we could get project-specific website that maybe updates at least once a month.
Great idea.
Or
Put
even
up some of the slides so people can see what the plans are.
a Facebook page, something
Something.
that makes it easier.
of our emails, cause we've given those.
Yeah.
We will continue to communicate. With that, I'm gonna close this study session. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Please get my phone number, my email, and reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to anybody anytime.
Thank you.